What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Somewhat Sports Podcast. My name is Chris, and I am joined by two of the greats in this industry, as always. Jerk and Dame, fellas, how are we this week?
It is a beautiful, well, not really a beautiful day technically weather-wise. It's cloudy, it's gloomy, but it's sunny in my heart, boys. The best trophy in sports, the series to decide it began last night. I'm only in a good mood. I can't wait to get the show going today.
I'm shitty. I'm still disabled. Life goes on though. Here I am.
Well, you are shitty. That I could agree with.
No,
But you know,
you're beautiful, Dame. You're
no,
amazing.
no, he's not. No, he's not. But I mean, Dame's a trooper for still recording the podcast even after getting hurt. Which was his fault, by the way. So yeah, pretty decent rundown this week. We got hockey. The Stanley Cup Finals are here. I believe we're game one into it already, Jerg. It happened last night.
Yep.
Won't spoil who won, even though you should probably know who the winner was coming into this podcast. But Jerg will basically, give us his analysis, his predictions, what he believes will happen. And then we'll go into some possible NFL smoke about a certain player headed to a certain team. And then we're going to head into a trade in the NBA that occurred last night that will also lead us to predictions about what's going to happen soon in the NBA in terms of trades. The draft is next week, and I could speak for all of us in this podcast that no one knew it was next week. Jerk just found out before we started recording.
I knew it was next week.
Considering my line of work, it's kind of bad that I didn't realize it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's all good though. I'm. Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, there's a lot of smoke. There's a lot of smoke, and when there's smoke, there's fire. And we're gonna cover all that this week. So, hockey, NFL, then NBA predictions, all that stuff. That's what we do. So, Jerg, you know what we do is that we start off with the best. So, Jerg, the Ice Prince, Stanley Cup Finals here. I know you're excited. So, how about you start us off? What do you got to talk to us about?
I mean, boys, like that you say yourself, the Stanley Cup Final is here, ladies and gentlemen. The final round of the greatest playoff in sports for the greatest trophy in sports is finally upon us, and it began last night. Just a quick update from what was last weekend, kind of what was predicted. Yes, the Tampa Bay Lightning did defeat the New York Rangers in the Eastern Conference Finals to win the Prince of Wales, to win the East for the third season in a row, and for the fourth time actually since 2015, funny enough. So Tampa Bay is just running the Eastern Conference at this point. And more on like that run in particular in a bit. But yeah, the Stanley Cup Final began last night. Game one between the Western Conference champion Colorado Avalanche and the Eastern Conference champion Tampa Bay Lightning, and it certainly delivered, to say the least. Now, to some people that may have just only tuned out after the first period, which if you did, shame on you. The Colorado Avalanche got off to a big lead early. They were up 2-0 and then up 3-1 towards the end of the to end the first period off. Really, just a shocking result, to say the least, that they were up by that much, that they got 3 goals in a period against Andrei Vasilevsky. It definitely looked like Tampa Bay was kind of out of sorts. They were out of sync early on in the game, and they just weren't able to contain Colorado on a consistent basis on those chances that they got. And really the Avs solving Vasilevsky, I think like one of the goals in particular, I forget which one, just off memory, but one of them was kind of a softie, you could say, for Vasilevsky to let in. The other ones I think were way more understandable. I think one of them he got screened on. So when it comes to those moving screens, like it's always rough when your goalie gives that up. But Vasilevsky did not look at his best in the first period, especially when you consider how he finished off the Rangers series. But he more than made up for in the final 2 periods of the game, allowing no goals against Colorado after in the second and the third period. And then Tampa, they responded in their own right, as they do, which is coming back. They tied up the game in the second period, which was absolutely wild. They actually scored 2 goals within a span of 48 seconds in order to tie up the game at 3-3. Third period was scoreless. Both goalies, shut it down in the third. Vasilevsky, like I said, shut out 2 straight periods. Darcy Kemper doing a good job rebounding in the third, especially you almost got the feeling when Tampa tied the game that you thought that they were going to get the next goal at some point. But a lot of credit to Colorado's defense and goaltending, which I'll get to that in more detail in a moment when I talk about the series overall, just kind of recapping the game. And then in overtime, Andrei Burakovsky scored the game winner to take the win. Colorado was able to win the game despite blowing their 3-1 lead in it, and they take game one of the Stanley Cup Final, the first Stanley Cup Final win for the organization. since 2001, I believe, was the last time that they won the Stanley Cup, if memory serves. Them and the Red Wings, their early 2000s Cups, I always get that confused. But irregardless, the first Stanley Cup final victory for the Colorado Avalanche since the early 2000s. It's been 2 decades for them. So hallelujah to Avs fans. They are up 1-0 in the series as of this point. As of now, Game 2 is going on Saturday. We will see. Hopefully this episode's up by then, and we will see who or what ends up happening there. I'm personally predicting the series is at least going to be tied after the first 2 games, but we go from there. But now to the series as a whole, as I get through the Game 1 recap in and of itself. So this series, and I kind of alluded to it last week when I was talking about the potential final matchup, but this has been the promised series for us in the NHL in the last 3 years. I think the Colorado Avalanche have been just a spectacular team for the last 3 years, winning the President's Trophy last season, being a contender for it a couple years ago, and then even this season they were very close to being the President's Trophy winning team as well. I think really just Florida was the team that beat them out at the end because Colorado was the number 1 overall seed in the Western Conference. I think the Avs Lightning has been that series that people have wanted to see, and now we're getting it, which is great. And I kind of talked about this. I share on my story for anyone that follows. And if you follow the SomeWhatSports IG page and you vote on our polls that we always put up on a daily basis, that you would have seen the story last night. That this is really a tale between 2 teams that are fighting for something similar but something different. For the Colorado Avalanche, this is a team fighting to etch their name in the history books for the first time. This is a team trying to craft a legacy for itself. There are a number of future Hall of Fame level players on this Colorado Avalanche team. Some that I think it's very much proven if their careers continue, they will. Some guys that they could develop into that kind of career if they can take those levels. And I think this is a team that wants to add to their legacy now. They want to get the Stanley Cup. Nathan MacKinnon deserves the Stanley Cup. He is one of the most underrated superstars in sports. I think he is he's just an absolute playmaker. He's an absolute just amazing player, and he doesn't get talked about enough, even in some NHL circles sometimes, which is very crazy to me. And you have the supreme talent of Cale Makar and Mikko Rantanen, two of the best offensive players in the game, especially Cale Makar being one of the best defensemen. To some people, arguably the best defenseman in the game today, and he is super young, mind you. He is he's under 24, 25 years old, so the sky is the limit for him. You just have a young overall Colorado Avalanche team that wants to make their mark. Whereas on the other side of things, you have the Tampa Bay Lightning, the back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. This is the team that has run the NHL for the last 2+ seasons, and they've won 11 straight playoff series. They are the closest that a team has ever come to a three-peat. A couple teams have, won two. One team won 2 in a row recently. That being the Penguins, they lost in the second round. The Blackhawks and the Kings both won 2 in 2 and 3 years, but they could never get that middle year. Always tripped up both those teams. Tampa Bay got the repeat. Now they are on, potentially getting the three-peat. They're 4 wins away. This is what I love about this series. I think is that this is one of those kind of full circle moments, because I think back to 2015 when the Tampa Bay Lightning were that young team trying to add to their legacy, and they made it to the Stanley Cup Final kind of unexpectedly, really, in 2015 when you consider how the franchise had been for a couple seasons at that point. We think of them as this great force right now over the last 4 years, but really for a while, there was like a 7-8 year stretch in Tampa Bay hockey where it's like one season they'd be great and they'd be a playoff team, and then the next season they would miss the playoffs. That's just what Tampa Bay Lightning hockey was. And they made that cup run in 2015, and they were the young team going up against the Chicago Blackhawks, who had won 2 cups at that point, would go on to win the third there. And it was a learning moment for that team, that young squad that would eventually make it back to that point after more heartbreak, and have now won back-to-back, and now are going for 3 in a row. So it's really, to me, I think it's a beautiful story for this Stanley Cup Final, where the Tampa Bay Lightning, you kind of look at them seeing Colorado. They're essentially seeing what they were 7 years ago when they were the team facing up against the cup-winning champions of the past. I think that, to me, is what makes this series interesting, is that are we going to see Tampa Bay finish things off and solidify themselves, as was said on our story last night? Remember, SomeWhatSports, ladies and gentlemen, on IG. Are they going to be the best dynasty that sports has seen in the last 20 years? Or are they going to fall just short, and we're going to see a potential new dynasty take their place? Because the Colorado Avalanche, for all intents and purposes, they are extremely talented. They are pretty young, and a cup victory for them, like, this could be the first of several for themselves, actually, if they're able to get it done. So I just think storyline wise, I think this is the Stanley Cup final that we've been waiting for. This is the one I've been waiting for. I have called Avs Lightning the last 3 years, and for it to finally happen, I'm very happy and excited about, because I think over the last 3 years, I think these have been the two best teams in hockey, and very rarely in sports. I think you guys can agree, even with the NBA, we don't always get the two best teams in the finals at the end of the day. And I think this was a rare moment where we truly do get the two best teams in the sport facing off against one another. And that's something I can't wait for. I hope the series goes long. I'll give my personal prediction for it at the end here in a little bit. But I just hope the series goes 6 or 7 and it's entertaining hockey and it's great close hockey, so that people can really understand just how elite these teams are, but also so everyone can see just how amazing the Stanley Cup Final is. Because I've preached on this podcast for last year and a half plus that we've been doing this, that Stanley Cup playoff hockey is just a different breed of hockey. Now it's Stanley Cup Final hockey, and the intensity is going to be ratcheted up to an even whole other level. So I can't wait for that personally for the fans. Now, my analysis on the series as a whole, this is certainly, with me saying that these are the best two teams, there's a reason for it. I think you look at both sides, it's just pure offensive talent on each side. I think you look at the Tampa Bay, no, excuse me, let me go to Colorado first. You got Nazem Kadri and Nathan MacKinnon, who are an amazing 1-2 punch at center. The two of them have been great this season. McKinnon's been a superstar for a while. Nazem Kadri had a career year for himself. You got the captain on that team in Gabriel Landeskog, who is who is almost 30 years old, and he's been the consistent force on that team for a decade, and he's been one of the better power forwards in the game for a while. You have Mikko Rantanen, who's burst on the scene over the last 4 seasons or so as one of the best offensive wingers in the game, and just how supremely talented that team is. And then you have that defensive unit for the Avs that, despite some injuries there, Samuel Girard is going to, he's been out for the playoffs for a while now, missing him is a big piece, but they still have Bowen Byram, who at 21 years old, he's really showing himself to be a very talented defenseman. You have just the veterans on that team, and Josh Manson, who has been critical for them. Devon Taves, he's been big in their playoff run with some, performances. But like I said earlier, Cale Makar, 23 years old, boys, and he's already shown himself to be one of the top 3 to 5 best defensemen in the game. He's been absolutely phenomenal. He's going to be a big reason why Colorado could end up winning the Stanley Cup. And their goaltending is fine. Darcy Kemper has had a pretty good year for himself. When you get to escape Arizona and be on a real team, I think that's a big thing for him. But Colorado really as a whole is just, they're so well put together, so talented, and everything has come together perfectly for them, which it's had to, because they have a lot of free agents this summer. So it almost kind of feels like this could be the last shot for this team with this current roster construction. And the fact that they got to this point is really big for them. And so we'll see if they can potentially finish it off and get that Stanley Cup win for themselves. Now on the other side, and I'm not going to say every single name because it would take way too long, but I will say Tampa Bay, for both sides, Colorado and Tampa Bay are talented, but you look at the Tampa Bay Lightning, just the center core in itself, you have Steven Stamkos and Anthony Cirelli, who have been just phenomenal in these playoffs. Steven Stamkos really proving a lot of people wrong, that they thought the last 2 years that maybe he was close to being done. Proved everybody wrong in the regular season, has come up clutch for the Tampa Bay Lightning in the playoffs. Anthony Cirelli has been one of the best shutdown the centers in the game the last 2 seasons, and he's played a massive role defensively in their playoffs. And now in this series, the Tampa Bay, they could get back Braden Point, who he has been a playoff performer throughout their repeat run. He missed the last 2 rounds, and yet they still defeated both the Panthers and the Rangers. So you get one of your top point scorers of the last couple playoffs back in this Stanley Cup Final series. Hopefully he could stay healthy and on the ice for them consistently and can perform. That's going to be massive for this team. Then you have the defensive wingers on this team, guys like Ross Colton and Brendan Hagel, that show up. Nicholas Paul has been phenomenal with timely goal scoring. Andre Palat has just been clutch, to say the very least. That dude, he scored the last second goal against the Rangers in Game 3. He scored a goal against the Rangers in either Game 5 and or 6. He scored the first goal, or no, the second goal last night for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Andre Palat just shows up in the playoffs. There's nothing else to say. Playoff Palat is a thing for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He has caused a lot of people nightmares over the last 2.5 plus playoff runs. So he's been great. And then you look at this defensive core. Mikhail Sergachev, to me, has blossomed in a lot of people's eyes. I've always thought he was talented, but he's blossomed into being one of the top, underrated blue liners in the game. They got some good pieces, but overall, Victor Hedman, who some people would argue is maybe at least the best playoff defenseman over the last couple seasons, him going against Cale Makar is something to see. And of course, like I've said several times, the best goalie in the series belongs to Tampa Bay. It's Andrei Vasilevsky, who's been the best goalie in the league for the last 5 seasons. You have so much talent on both sides. You can make an argument for either team. I know the guys here don't really know hockey, but if they had even wanted to give their predictions, if either of them said Colorado or Tampa, you can't blame them. If anybody says Colorado or Tampa in 6 or 7 or even 5 for some reason, I mean, I hope it doesn't go to 5, but if you said Lightning or Avs in 5, I could see it because both these teams are so supremely talented, so stacked, so deep, so strong. Like we have what I think is the best Stanley Cup final matchup on paper that I think we've had for almost a decade now. I really have to try to think back into what the last great Stanley Cup final matchup may have been. I think it may have honestly been that 2015 Stanley Cup final between the Blackhawks and Lightning. Now, am I a little bit biased because A, I'm a Blackhawk fan and B, we won that year? Maybe. But I also think you look at it from both sides. It's this Tampa Bay team was super young way back when, and the Chicago Blackhawks were at the peak of their powers in 2015. I think you kind of look at it here, and it's like this Colorado team. There are some young pieces there, but there are stars / superstar caliber players, exactly what Tampa Bay had in 2015. And you got the cup winning core in this Tampa team that the Blackhawks had in 2015. So I see a lot of similarities between these two series, and I think there's a reason why, at least for me on paper, this is the best Stanley Cup final series ever since then. Now, my prediction, and this is why I'm here. I've kind of filibustered long enough. I want Colorado to win so badly. I really do. I want Nathan MacKinnon to have his Stanley Cup. I think it'll be a crime if he ends his career and doesn't have a Stanley Cup. So I really do want the Avs to win. But something is telling me that Tampa Bay is going to finish off the three-peat. And I'm going to say Tampa does finish it off. I'll say the Lightning in 6 is my official Stanley Cup final prediction. I think Tampa Bay completes the three-peat and solidifies themselves as the best dynasty that the sports world has seen since the Shaq and Kobe Lakers, because no team has three-peated ever since. And to me, like, 3 and 5 years was nice for my Blackhawks. 3 and 4 years is nice for other teams. But you three-peat, and the year before your three-peat, you won the President's Trophy, which is that's the regular season award for the most points in the season. And that was the greatest regular season we had seen from a modern team in a while. I think this Tampa Bay team is going to solidify themselves as the best dynasty the sports world has seen in the last 2 decades. So my official prediction, boys, for the Somewhat Sports Podcast, because I'm the only one that really dives deep into hockey here, so this is all our prediction. Bolts in 6 is the Stanley Cup final prediction here. The series should still be going next week, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of concludes it. I hope you boys are going to watch at least one game of the Stanley Cup final. Lord knows I'm going to be watching them, but I hope you guys at least watch a game.
Yeah,
because this is going to be some good hockey.
Yeah, I'll definitely catch a game or two, actually. I mean, yeah, NBA Finals should be done by the time. So, like, I think hockey will be 2 or 3 games in. And Jerg, from based on what I'm hearing, you suspect this series to kind of go the distance.
I want it to. Like, I know my prediction is Bolts in 6, but if this goes to 7, like, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Because both these teams are just, like, I gave all the breakdown already, but it's like both these teams are so supremely talented. Like, it feels like you have to beat them in 7 if you're going to win this series. So, and that's what you want from the final round of the playoffs. That's, you want the 2 best teams to go at it to be a real, like, heavyweight boxing match of sorts. And this is as close as you can get to it, I think, in sports as a whole with these 2 teams.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm all for it, and I'm pretty sure Dame's all for it. We know you're all for it. But we move on over to the NFL world, where there's some smoke. There's some smoke appearing outside the window. I didn't know about it till like yesterday, but then Jer confirmed that he's seen a bunch of reports regarding this. Apparently, the Panthers, Carolina Panthers, are interested in possibly trading for Baker Mayfield. So when does training camp start for the NFL? Anyone?
Next month, I think.
Okay, so it's relatively soon, you'd say, yeah?
Yeah,
so
preseason is in August, so I'm assuming training camp is literally
okay.
next month.
So as of now, the starting quarterback is Sam Darnold for the Panthers. I apparently based off this news, it seems like they're not entirely sold on him. Who do they cop in the draft again? They didn't they pick a quarterback? Was it Matt Corral?
Yeah, I think it was Matt Corral.
Okay, so Corral, Darnold, and well, now if they trade for Baker Mayfield, you have like I guess a 3 quarterback race here. Now, this is a little weird because I did not expect the Panthers to kind of be interested in Baker. I think because you kind of already have a project in Sam Darnold. He's kind of coming off a lackluster year last year after a somewhat decent start. You draft Matt Corral, so you're already kind of like showing that you don't have complete faith in him. And then like with these rumors coming out that you want to possibly trade for Baker, you're definitely showing that you don't have much faith in him. So guys, I don't know what the cap situation is. Jerg, maybe you could tell me, or even Dame if you want to. If like Darnold and Baker are both due like 18 million a year,
Yeah, fully guaranteed.
both right each.
Yep.
Okay, so that's gonna. I don't know how that's gonna work if you get both of them on the team. Because that's what 36 million in total,
A
unless you
lot of
trade
money.
Darnold for Baker. But yeah, this is kind of I don't know. I don't know if it's random because like yes, the Panthers do have a quarterback, but like it's Sam Darnold, right? You're still looking for an upgrade. But then again, you drafted Matt Corral, so I don't necessarily know where their heads at. I don't know if I like the fit with Baker. It seems like not everyone on the team is sold on him. I think Robbie Anderson like
Wants to
commented on a
retire.
yeah no, but he commented on a report
Oh
where
yeah,
it
yeah,
said
yeah.
that the Panthers are interested in Baker, and he's like no, and I'm like damn. So it just shows that like not everyone on the Panthers wants Baker Mayfield there. But again, Robbie Anderson might retire after such a great career, so who knows how that turns out. But Dan, let me start off with you. What do you make of these reports? What do you make of the trade if it does happen? What do you make of Sam Darnold's future? How do you see that quarterback battle kind of, how do you see it like turning out?
I kind of have a similar stance to you. It doesn't make sense to me why the Panthers would really pursue this because, like you mentioned, like Baker and Sam Darnold, they obviously came out the same class, so they have the same kind of contract structure and stuff. And both the Panthers picked up Sam Darnold's 5th-year option, the Browns picked up Baker Mayfield's option, which means that next year their salary is like 18 some point something fully guaranteed. So you can't cut him and then save money, or you can't trade and save money. Like if they're gonna trade for Baker Mayfield, the Browns aren't gonna take back Sam Darnold. The Browns would not want a $18.5 million quarterback as a backup, especially when you just paid Deshaun Watson $230 million guaranteed. So there's no way you're gonna go and acquire Baker Mayfield and be able to send Sam Darnold back and save that kind of money. If you're gonna trade for Baker Mayfield, you better be prepared to have both him and Sam Darnold on the roster and paying both of them combined whatever would be like $36 million for one to start and one to back up. And I get quarterback competition is great, especially with young quarterbacks, to just see which is going to be better for your team. But when you draft a Matt Corral, a guy who has success in college and has some kind of potential, and you have Sam Darnold, who obviously, like I just mentioned, you guaranteed his contract for next year, and you spend a second, fourth, and sixth round pick to acquire him, I would it wouldn't make sense to me why you would go acquire another guy who hasn't proven anything in his career and has been extremely injury prone. Um, I would just ride with Sam Darnold and Matt Corral. You have that kind of QB competition going into training camp and OTAs and stuff, and you see who comes out up top, and then you just ride with that for the rest of the season. Then after Sam Darnold's obviously done with this contract, you just evaluate your quarterback situation after the season. There'd be it just I see no logical sense to be paying Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold all that kind of money just for one to start when neither one of them, let's be honest, are going to be superstar quarterbacks that are going to lead the Panthers deep into the playoffs. Like if you're going to bring Baker Mayfield, you just bring him in hoping he's somewhat better than Sam Darnold, so you're not a laughing stock of the NFL. But at the end of the day, it's all about where you're gonna go to win a championship and what you got to do to win a championship, whether it's this year moving forward. And neither of these guys are gonna be that guy. So why waste $18.5 million and waste your time bringing both these guys into training camp and having them battle out? So that doesn't make sense to me. So if I was really the Panthers, unless the only way I'd pursue it is if I can find a Sam Darnold suitor somewhere else, because then you could save that money. You wouldn't have both on the roster. But I just don't see any team taking on $18.5 million of Sam Darnold to back up their quarterback, because I don't think any team that really needs a starter is going to pay all that money for Sam Darnold to be their starter next year. So unless they could find a magical suitor for Sam Darnold, I don't see any reason for the Panthers to pursue this kind of deal.
Yeah, Jerry, before you go, like it's kind of weird because like I think on paper the Panthers have a decent roster, and like
Yeah.
they kind of are ready to like compete. Well, you never know with McCaffrey because he's always hurt. So like I don't understand. Like they have to view Baker as like a big upgrade over Sam, right? But like he doesn't move the needle. I don't get it. And also like there's the whole attitude issues. It's I don't think it's a decent fit. But again, maybe like Matt Rule likes him. Matt Rule's job might be on the line soon if like there's no moves made. I don't know. I'm not sure. Jerg, what have you read into? Like, what could you tell us about this? What do you think about this?
Well, kind of what your guys' point is. I think you bring up the biggest thing here, Chris, is that if there is pressure from ownership to make another change at quarterback, then they need to make a move. And you could say what you will. You could say that maybe they're the similar thing to you, but so far from their careers, if you got to pick between Baker and Sam Darnold, you're going to pick Baker Mayfield.
For sure, for sure.
And if your organization views him as an upgrade, then in theory you should go after the upgrade. I'll say this: Robbie Anderson should have absolutely zero say in who the heck the starting quarterback is. If Robbie Anderson wants to retire because the Panthers trade for Baker Mayfield, man, go ahead, kick rocks. Like I could give ain't no one losing sleep at night if Robbie Anderson leaves. I think Carolina Panthers fans really just would not care if they lose Robbie Anderson for bringing in Baker Mayfield. So Robbie Anderson, like you're not that important in the grand scheme of things here. You're just not. I'm sorry to say it, but like you're not. So shut up, please. Moving on from that. I think I got to disagree with Dame's point here as to why, like, if potentially it could be a scenario where like the two teams have to swap quarterbacks, and maybe because like Baker's the better quarterback, maybe the Panthers have to give up a little bit extra, and Cleveland would want that, man. Deshaun Watson may not play at all this season or for several
yes.
years down the line.
But that's why I said the possible Darnold trade.
And that's why I lean more towards you here, Chris, because let's be real here. I don't think Baker's going back to Cleveland. Like, you literally traded.
It's burnt. The bridge is burnt.
Burnt. It's been napalmed. It's been nuclear exploded.
Wow.
Baker is not going back to Cleveland. Again, this dude tried to play through a shoulder injury. Say what you will about everything about him. He tried to do the usual sports gutsy leadership thing, and he tried to play through injury. The Cleveland Browns, I forget who it was last season, maybe it was the coach or the GM or whoever, had the audacity to say that they needed more of an adult in the room. Where were all the adults in the general manager, the head coach, and the medical staff to try to tell Baker, no, it's not worth it for us. It's not worth it for you. Please sit out, and we promise we'll make it work next season. Where were you, quote unquote, adults when this dude tried to sacrifice his body for this team? Because we know if Baker would have sat out, if he maybe could have played through it and he didn't, we know that they would have thrown subtle shots at him then. So the Cleveland Browns leadership group, quote unquote, can absolutely fuck off with that. I don't buy a single word of what they're saying. And considering what's happening now to Deshaun Watson, this group deserves it. They deserve what's happening to them with how they ended it with Baker. I don't care if you wanted to make the upgrade. Yes, any of us would make the upgrade from Baker Mayfield to Deshaun Watson or someone else. I fully agree with that. But you can't throw a guy under the bus who tried to play through an injury, and then you have the audacity to say that he wasn't an adult when you were a big reason why this happened. You were a reason why the Odell Beckham Jr. and Baker Mayfield relationship didn't work. You, Kevin Stefanski, who's supposed to be this offensive guru, and you couldn't make it work. Really? Baker's not the adult, so don't give me that. Like, I don't buy it at all. So yes, you kind of have to consider a Baker Darnold swap here because there's no other quarterback really on the roster. Like, yes, Jacoby Brissett's there. Really?
Big Jacoby Brissett guys here. Big Jacoby Brissett guys.
Look, I love Jacoby Brissett, but yeah, I think we've seen it. He ain't going to do anything for you if he's the starter for a full 17 games. So you need to get someone else in there. And again, Baker's not going to stay. You've burned, napalmed, nuclear exploded. It's 2 atomic bombs dropped on that bridge like the U.S. did to Japan back at the end of World War II. Like that is the relationship between Baker Mayfield and Cleveland Browns.
You're on one today, Jerk.
So no, man, like the Browns, I don't think. Excuse me, the Panthers, I definitely see why they would want to do it. The Browns, I think you need to get Sam Darnold back here because, and for the matter, actually, the Panthers, I think still have like $25 million in cap space because I think they've been hoping this entire time to find that quarterback upgrade, and here's the opportunity for them to do so. Like, if you're Cleveland, like, sorry, not sorry, but at this point, you probably do have to take back a Sam Darnold just so there's another quarterback there. Like, what's it going to be? Like, okay, if you want to run with Jacoby Brissett, who the hell is Brissett's backup right now? Anyone? Does anyone know who the other quarterback? Like, you might as well run with Darnold and Brissett over just Brissett and insert name of random undrafted / 6th, 7th round quarterback here. It makes absolutely no sense. And like, this has always been my thing when organizations are in a bad spot that they put themselves in, and people are like, well, how could this happen? Look in the mirror. Look in the mirror, Cleveland. You did this to yourself. You got the second coming of Ben Roethlisberger times like a million on your roster. And we're not talking about on the field as to the next Ben Roethlisberger. You decided to trade for him. There are still issues there. He may not play at all this season. And now your other quarterback, you're just like, hey, we're sorry. This is like blasting your ex on social media for 2 weeks. And then like after your new relationship didn't work out, you're like, hey, I didn't really mean all that. Like, no, yes, you did. Yes, you did. So no, I feel no sympathy for the Cleveland Browns if they have to take back Sam Darnold here. I hope they do have to, because again, that quarterback situation is nothing right now. Like, who please, someone look it up. Who is the other quarterback on that roster aside from Deshaun Watson and Jacoby Brissett? Please tell me, because like like I think one of us might be the other quarterback on that roster. Like that's how little we know about this Cleveland Browns team.
Well, Dame's hurt, so I mean, it can't be him.
So it's between you or me, Chris. It's between you and me. And Chris, I've never seen you throw a football, so I can't say, but I like to think I could throw a good 40, 50 yarder. So I don't know.
Okay, so the quarterbacks.
Joshua Dobbs.
Oh yeah, Joshua Dobbs.
Oh Lord,
my boy Dobbs.
Yeah, take Sam Darnold, please.
Look, all in all, if Watson's suspended and Baker hasn't been traded, then I'm just smelling a week 2 victory for the Jets. That's all I
It's gonna
took
be a
away from
victory
this.
anyway.
Oof, talking hot there, Dame. But yeah, I mean, Jerk, I think you put it beautifully. It's gonna be very interesting to see how this plays out. I don't care about either teams. Look, Jets fleeced the Panthers for that Darnold trade. We got our picks back. I don't care. I always see this talk that Darnold hasn't been given a fair shot. I don't know if I necessarily this year, like, the Panthers started off decently, and they kind of went downhill. Darnold wasn't that good in the second half of the season. I don't really remember like most of the season from his standards, but I just remember like they started off 4-0, I believe, and then they just kind of went downhill, and then the whole Cam Newton situation came about.
McCaffrey got hurt.
And
by the way, real quick, if you're someone who has said that Sam Darnold hasn't been given a fair shot, but at the same time you also tried to disregard the importance of running backs, then you're contradicting yourself, because Christian McCaffrey got hurt, Sam Darnold goes down, and yet the running back doesn't matter to you, so Sam Darnold didn't get a fair shot. Like, so I'm just saying, like, running backs matter a little bit more than we give him credit for, because we saw what Sam Darnold looked like with healthy Christian McCaffrey versus without healthy Christian McCaffrey, and with no Christian McCaffrey. So yeah, all I'm saying.
I don't think, and it's not like when will someone ever get a like fully healthy Christian McCaffrey though? Like that's I don't know, but yeah, it's just this whole Baker Mayfield saga is kind of interesting. He's gonna have a chip on his shoulder after he gets traded too. So I do agree with you, Jerk. I think the bridges are way too burnt. He's not coming back to Cleveland. He's laughing under the stairs evilly. Not a word, but it's the Browns kind of deserve this. They're kind of a dumpster fire of an organization, and it's, and I remember a few years ago, I thought Kevin Stefanski was like a Coach of the Year runner-up, in my opinion. I thought he could have won it.
Yeah.
And I thought they were trending in the right direction. They got their first playoff win, and then just this year, man, everything kind of went downhill, and now it's going even more downhill as the days go by. So I'm interested to see, because it provides content for us to talk about. So yeah, any final thoughts before we move on?
Just like you said, just disappointed in the power of that organization. I thought Andrew Berry was an amazing GM acquisition. I still think he is. We all thought Kevin Stefanski was a good hire, but like, you just keep falling into the Browns' ways. It feels like that football team is contaminated at this point. Like, you just things just progressively get worse for you and your career if you go there. Like, I don't understand it. Just nothing goes well when it's in Cleveland. It makes no sense, but it kind of makes sense when you think about it. Like, it's just it's a dumpster fire.
Yes, a dumpster fire. Indeed it is. All right, let's move on over to the NBA world, where a trade occurred last night, fellas. Pretty out of nowhere, actually. We were kind of discussing before we went live the news that broke last night. We should talk about it, and that will kind of lead us to making possible predictions on what's going to occur in the following weeks. Trade-wise, free agency is actually not far out, so there's going to be a ton of movement in the NBA, especially with the finals kind of coming to an end. But the trade that did occur last night, the Houston Rockets are trading Christian Wood to the Dallas Mavericks for Boban Marjanovic, Sterling Brown, Trey Burke, Marquise Chris, and the number 26th pick. In translation, the Rockets are trading Christian Wood for the 26th pick. It's just, yeah, they traded a bunch of Cheez-Its and Lay's for Christian Wood. So I kind of I saw people saying that I think the Rockets got fleeced apparently. And I could see why they'd say that off the first glance, because Christian Wood's actually, I think, a solid player. He can play the 5. I think he's a natural 4, but he can't play the 5. So Mavericks, I think they fake solve their center issue, even though I don't think Christian Wood is a legitimate 5. But he's another player that you could put around Luka Doncic here, another scorer, someone that could get their own bucket. So I get why the Mavericks took the risk here, because they also made the Western Conference Finals. They didn't have Tim Hardaway Jr., so next year they're going to have their same team with Tim Hardaway and now with Christian Wood. They give up the 26th pick and a bunch of scraps. So the risk, I understand. So I will say this. I saw, this was actually a good tweet that I saw on Twitter. Like, the vibes of the Mavericks, I think, are a big factor as to, how far they went this year, because they had pretty good chemistry, if you see. And, the Theo Pinson, man, my guy, they seem like a pretty, together unit. Like, everyone seemed to gel well with one another. Christian Wood is known to have some character issues, kind of a headache. I think there were reports once that his coach told him to get in the game, and he was just like, no. And I'm like, all right, kind of a scumbag there. So, I do think, because he was with the Rockets and that whole situation was a mess, he was kind of the main guy, but he was kind of a headache. It didn't work out. The Rockets were an abysmal team. They're clearly in the rebuild. So he's going to kind of go into an organization. I'm not going to say the Mavericks are an A1 franchise here. They've had their problems, a lot of them, over the past couple of years. But you're going to come into a team where they have their guy. You kind of need to know your place here, right? So I get why the Mavericks did it. Kind of an upgrade in talent in general. So I guess the only concern is that you have to be careful because of the character issues that have been rumored with him. But I think he'll know to kind of back off, because this is Luka's team. This team is going to try to win. And I think that's also another thing. When you're in a team that's trying to win, that is capable of winning, you are kind of forced to adjust your habits, right? So again, I don't really care about Christian Wood. I don't know much about him other than he's a decent player with some character issues. But again, going to a winning team has the ability to kind of cure all problems here. For the Rockets side, I think this is kind of a no-brainer here. They're rebuilding, of course. They get the 26th pick. I wouldn't be surprised if Marjanovic gets, if they waive him, if they waive Sterling Brown, maybe keep a Trey Burke or more Marquise Chris. I don't know. But again, I think the main thing here is that 26th pick. So they're just trying to accumulate all picks here. They're trying to rebuild. So they trade Christian Wood, which means there is a gap in the 4. I think the 5 will be, what the hell is his name? They scooped him in the draft last year, Jerg. He was a Turkish player. What was his name? Şengün, yeah. So I think Şengün will assume the 5 role, and I think this, kind of a spoiler here, I think this clears the runway for them to draft Paolo Banchero. And I've read reports that they are enamored with him, and they seem to be leaning towards him for the draft. So, again, you do it for picks. The 26th pick, it's a late pick, but it's still a pick. Clears the runway for Paolo Banchero. The Rockets are in full rebuild mode, so I understand the move. Mavericks, you kind of have to. It's weird because it's hard for them to kind of upgrade with the talent wise, because they don't have a lot of picks, and the picks they do have aren't that high, and their trade assets aren't that great. So anytime you can make a move for a solid player by not giving up too much, kind of a win here. So for both teams, I understand it. I'm not going to choose a winner. I just understand why both teams did it. Because can you call the Rockets a winner when they're actually rebuilding? So I can't. I'm not gonna. That's an unfair call. But yeah, I think both teams knew what they were doing. Benefits them both ways. But yeah, Jared, let me go with you first. What was your takeaway when this news dropped?
So it's really funny because, kind of like you said, I was just at work going through, and I just got the notification on my phone, and I was just like, huh, Hey, fellas, we got something to actually talk about tomorrow. um, the trade itself, like, I see why some people are trying to say that this was a fleece by the Mavs, but Christian Wood a couple years ago, like, would you have said you could have gotten a first round pick out of him in a deal? Like, just all the credit in the world. Like, we were kind of talking about it. I forget how many weeks ago now at this point when we briefly went over the draft lottery, Chris, and how the Detroit Pistons could get a lottery pick for Jeremy Grant. Like, who would have thought a couple years back that you could have gotten maybe a lottery pick now as a conversation for dealing away at Jeremy Grant? I think it was big for Houston to be able to make that deal. I think just getting one first round pick out of Christian Wood at this point was great. Like like you said, he went to Houston. He put up the stats. He put up the numbers. Like it, players like a Christian Wood and Jeremy Grant, they go to a team without a real number one. They get the touches, and they boost themselves. They boost up their stats. They boost up their numbers. They try to get their payday, and it makes them in perceived value like more valuable to other teams. And the question is how much better of a player did they become? I actually personally didn't really know too much about the character issues, so like that's kind of news to me. Then again, I haven't really followed the Rockets or Christian Wood really that much in depth. I just know he was like a good story. It was good for him when he got paid by Houston. But yeah, I think for Houston, it was fine enough. They're just trying to get young pieces on that roster. And the thing is, they'll probably sign like another one or two mid-tier free agents this summer if they can to just have some veterans there, because you can't have a full roster of just young players like 4 years or less in the league. You got to have a couple older players on the team. And I think that's what Houston's strategy is. I think they're sending away Christian Wood, and they're just going to add other veterans here. I think I think that's what the play is for them. So if that's the case, like, good for them. For Dallas, this definitely, we figured Dallas was going to make a move. We didn't know who it was going to be. We didn't know when in the offseason they were going to do it. Clearly, they saw an opportunity to pounce here for a pretty good trade in their value, in their perceived value at least. He fits in the starting lineup well. I actually think him with Luka is a good fit on the court. I think you got a lot of pick and roll and especially pick and pop potential. I think Wood has shown us he can shoot the ball in his time in Houston. I think he'll definitely get better with Luka. Like, kind of like you said, Chris. Like, I don't think Christian Wood's delusional. I think he goes there. I think he should be able to understand that this is Luka's team and he needs to adjust himself to play with Luka. Like, that's who Luka is. Like, Luka, Giannis, LeBron, Kawhi, Curry, guys like that are in that phase where it's like you need to learn. Kevin Durant, you need to learn how to adjust to them. You need to play around them. They don't play around you, bro. You play around them. um, I think Christian Wood should understand that, and he should be able to adjust to whatever Jason Kidd and then Mavericks coaching staff needs, ultimately speaking. um, I think it's a good deal for the Mavs. I think he definitely helps the front court, especially because like we had wondered what was going to happen with them trading Porzingis, because they had zero depth whatsoever, and Kevon Looney was a Western Conference Finals MVP candidate for half the series. So he at least helps a little bit there with some size. Their offseason is nowhere near done. Obviously, I think there's still a lot more additions that need to be made, but I don't think this is too bad of a start. It kind of sucks because I was really hoping that they would go for like a much bigger name, like a bigger deal, really to help Luka. Maybe that's down the line. Maybe Christian Wood is in. Maybe it's just a short term tenure, and maybe they trade him as part of a bigger package a year or two down the line. Who knows? But I think for now, this is for what it is. It's good for Dallas. I we got to give them at least this amount of credit. They are trying to improve the roster after going on a surprise run, more than what we saw several teams do last season. The Hawks did not really improve their roster all that much from last season when they made the conference finals. The Knicks didn't really improve their roster when they shockingly made the playoffs last year, and they missed the playoffs this year. The Hawks lost in the first round this year. Um, like you gotta work on the roster when you go on these runs, and a lot of teams just choose not to. And I'll give Dallas credit; at least they did so. So that's more than what I could say for most. So I think it's a good deal for both sides overall. There's no loser here. I think both sides are winners in the essence of it.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I do think that both teams are winners. I don't think there's a clear loser. Obviously, it's different situations for both teams. The Mavericks are obviously trying to contend, trying to make the most out of Luka's prime and the way he's playing right now. And the Rockets are clearly in a rebuild. So the Christian Wood thing, he's obviously a good young player to have on a rebuilding team, but clearly it just wasn't working out there in Houston. And the fact that Houston could get off his money and his contract and get a first round pick out of it is perfect for their rebuild, because when you're in a rebuild, you don't want, although he is talented, obviously, and he's young, you don't want a guy that just doesn't fit the culture you're trying to build and have that kind of attitude problem that Chris alluded to. So being able to get him off and getting a first round pick out of it, that you can now draft a young player out of this draft that you can try to fit into that core that you're trying to build there, is really good for them going forward. They just have to be able to draft well, and that obviously goes for all the rebuilding teams. But for that side of it, I think it's really good for Rockets moving forward. And then for the Mavs, Chris mentioned this, like the Mavs don't have a lot of great young trade assets that they could just package together and go get say a Donovan Mitchell or another star that could be available. They can pair alongside Luka Doncic. So any kind of player that you could trade for that's young and valuable, such as a Christian Wood, that you don't have to give up really any assets from your team that would make your team worse, I think you have to do, and this is exactly what they did. I don't really know any other players that would be available out there right now for the Mavs to get in a similar package like this, where you don't have to give up, say, uh, Spencer Dinwiddie, Bertans, Kleba, guys like that that are really vital to what Luka Doncic and the Mavs do on offense and on defense. So really, essentially, this trade, they're not giving up anything from their team that made the Western Conference Finals last year, and they're just adding a very talented four who can really help Luka stretch the floor because he can shoot, he can make plays for others, not only for himself. So that's really going to help take the burden off of Luka Doncic, who obviously does everything for that team, and being able to just have somebody else who could try to make plays not only for himself but for others will take a lot off of Doncic himself. So I really like this trade for both sides. Both teams are heading in different directions, and the trade helped both of them head in those directions even more.
I know that off rip, people would be like, oh, maybe because of the amount of players they got rid of, people would be like, oh, maybe they cleared up some salary. No, they did not actually. The Mavericks, I mean. The Mavericks did not clear up salary. I think it was like a $50,000 difference. My boy Jeremy Cohen on Twitter kind of cleared that up because Christian Wood is actually making a decent amount of money, I believe. So the salaries matched. I wonder, because I know after the trade, I was like kind of wondering, I'm like, all right, so what happens to Brunson now? Right? Because like he's due for a payday. He's gonna command a lot of money, like 20 million plus, I believe. Um, Mavericks say they want him back. I don't know. I'm not saying that the Wood trade has anything to like kind of do or if it has a ripple effect on it, but with Brunson's contract situation. But I really wonder, like, do they like stick with him? Like, I feel like they should at this point. You know, I don't want to make this like a free agency discussion thing, but like I think the Mavericks actually do have something decent here if like they were to re-sign Brunson, because you have Luka, you're gonna have Brunson, you have Christian Wood now, you'll have Dinwiddie off the bench, Tim Hardaway comes back, you have your Klebers of the world, so they I think they have some decent pieces here. I really wonder what the scenario is gonna look like with Brunson, in my opinion. That's just me. That's just me. Again, not everyone could care. But yeah, like I said, this leads us to possible trade scenarios going forward in the NBA. So, fellas, I'm kind of based on what I've read in terms of like teams. Like Dirk talked about this like maybe a year ago, year and a half ago. I think it was a year ago. Like the draft is always kind of fun because teams that are kind of on the brink of like tearing the whole team down, like in rebuilding mode, you're always interested to see like it really shifts the landscape of the NBA, you know? And it's very interesting to see like these teams kind of take this new approach. Um whatever direction they're going in. Anytime a team like kind of tears some shit down, it has a ripple effect on the NBA. So it's really fun and interesting to like read into. I do think the Pacers are one of those teams. You know, I do think that Brogdon is going to be available soon, fellas. I think Brogdon's gone. Turner, I'm not sure. I think Turner's a wild card on if he's going to be dealt or not. But again, I think when they traded Sabonis, they have a top 5 pick this year, I believe. Top 5 or 6, I'm not sure. Someone fact check me on that. But they got rid of Sabonis. Again, I don't know if they want to keep Turner because it's never a bad thing to have like a stretch 5 in there, especially for a point guard for Tyrese Halliburton, who's a gifted passer. But I think Brogdon's gone. I do think the Pacers should embrace the rebuild. But Brogdon, I think he had that weird thing with his contract where he wasn't allowed to get traded last year, which is why I think they kept him. But what do you guys think happens to Brogdon and Turner? I do think Brogdon is a little bit more It's tricky because I think Brogdon's a good player, but he's so injury prone, and I think that's the same thing with Turner as well. So they're both, I think, appealing assets. I think, as Knicks fans in the chat here, me and Dame, uh, of many packages that I hope are brewing for Julius Randle, would you mind like a package in which we get Brogdon back, knowing like his contract situation, but also his injury history? Like, what do you think of that?
I'd love it because it just gets rid of Randall.
Mm.
So
Why don't we get
and
like a point guard? I
and
guess.
you get a point guard. Yeah, I don't think he's a natural point guard. Like I don't think
Yeah.
he's a great floor general or whatever. But he's a nice guard to have to put on the wing, whether it's off the bench or in the starting lineup. He's a really good defender as well. He can shoot the ball, so I think he'd be a really good addition for the Knicks. I'm not sure exactly of his contract situation, but I know it can be worse than Julius Randle. And I've never heard or seen Malcolm Brogdon have these kind of attitude problems. I think he's kind of a quiet guy that really wouldn't interfere with anything that the Knicks are doing going forward, such as Julius Randle did this past season, which he had absolutely inexcusable moments that just when you're a young team and you have young guys around you and you're kind of the elder statesman and supposed to be the leader, the moments that he's had last year are just inexcusable and not something you can have around the team that you're trying to build a nice young core around and trying to have them build something within. So I don't think Malcolm Brogdon would upset that at all, and I think Julius Randle did upset that last year. So honestly, it wouldn't take for me personally. It just wouldn't take a lot for me to get rid of Julius Randle, but that's just me. But Malcolm Brogdon, I think, would be an excellent addition.
Yeah, yeah. But then again, like you don't know. That's why I think it's very confusing to like kind of tell what the direction the Pacers are going in, because if you're going the rebuild mode, Randall's 27 or something. Brogdon's more on the older side. I think Brogdon's almost 30. So you are getting a younger player back, but you're not getting someone that fits the Tyrese Halliburton timeline, which is what
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of building around. So it's weird. It's really weird because you're not in full rebuild mode if you do trade for Julius Randle, which is why I'm very like meh, like if it's gonna happen or not. Would I like the trade? I think ultimately, look, I'll take anything I get for Randle that's of quality. I do think Brogdon would be a pretty decent complementary piece to RJ Barrett, which is what the Knicks should be focusing on. Um, yeah, like it's. I think Tibbs would love Brogdon. I think he would love Brogdon. He's not my choice. Obviously, the pipe dream here would be to, trade for the trade in the draft and be in position to draft a Jaden Ivey, which oh my god, oof. But uh, Jerg, what do you have to think? Well, what do you make about like the Brogdon trade rumors? Where could you see him going? Not necessarily the Knicks. I mean, if you want to touch on that, sure. But like, where do you see him going? Do you see Miles Turner getting traded? What do you think?
I think they should. I think like you kind of said what I said before. Like the draft is the time I think where teams can really make that decision, even if they don't make it on draft night, to decide what are they going to be over the next even 2 to 3 seasons. And I think if you're the Indiana Pacers, like it should just all be about blowing up this core and preparing to get this team ready again 2 to 3, 4 years down the line. Now, um, I think Malcolm Brogdon and Miles Turner are both pieces that could get you back decent enough players. I think you could easily fetch a first round pick for each of them. Like Christian Wood has gone for a first. Jeremy Grant, we're talking about going for a first, maybe even a lottery pick. Like I think both these guys could easily each go for a first round pick as well. Malcolm Brogdon, in terms of fit, it's kind of funny because like I almost would have thought like maybe Dallas could have maybe had a fleeting interest in him if they were going to let Brunson go, and the situation there, maybe you trade Dinwiddie there because again, like for rebuilding teams, you don't necessarily need to have all of your players there at the moment be young. Like if a Knicks Pacers trade were to happen and Randall does get swapped for Brogdon, like it's not the worst thing for the Pacers to have Randall there at age 27. Just help fill out, just help be a guy on the roster, help be on the books so that they could meet the cap floor, because I'm sure the NBA has a cap floor, and just get a couple touches while these guys improve. And then if you can make Julius Randle look good again, you could then trade him 2 years down the line when his contract's a little bit more palatable and you can get more value there. So it's like it's really all a value game, I think, when it comes to rebuilding, and you just need to play your cards the best you can. I'd say play them right, but Lord knows how many of these teams are unable to do that. I think Malcolm Brogdon being a two-way guard who can score, uh, decent defender, good passing, solid rebounding, like you can't say a bad thing about him. And like you guys said, like he's a very high character individual. I don't think a single coach that he's ever had has ever had anything bad to say about him. I think he's a guy, and he's got 3 years left now because he signed like a 2-year extension on top of his deal he had before. So he's got 3 years left. I think all the contract value combined is like below 68 million. So more than affordable, especially in today's climate for a guy who can get you 20 a game potentially with like 4 or 5 rebounds, 5, 6 assists. You like he's definitely going to be a guy that a lot of different teams should have interest in this summer. I just like I can't necessarily name someone at the moment because like I'd have to go through teams like rosters and cap situations and what they could and could not do. But I would expect Malcolm Brogdon will have a lot of suitors on who could
Yeah.
take him this upcoming summer. And Miles Turner to a lesser extent. I mean, maybe if the Utah Jazz choose to get rid of Gobert and they keep Donovan Mitchell and they still need a defensive center in a separate deal, maybe a Miles Turner could go back the other way to Utah. It'd still be that defensive big man that they need. Maybe a little bit more versatile because I think Miles Turner has some potential to guard the perimeter. Let me stress that, but he's not as bad as the walking stilts there. But like just ultimately, there's different. I think even Miles Turner to Dallas could have even been a thing before the Christian Wood trade happened.
Yeah.
And maybe if you want to put Wood at the 4 and Miles Turner at the 5, they could still somehow work out that kind of deal. I don't know if they can, but if you could, like, good on you, Dallas, because like
I don't know if they have the cap for that though.
True, like that's what I'm saying. Like that's why we're letting the GMs figure that out. But like it's what my ultimate point is both these guys will have plenty of suitors, and Buddy Hield, even we haven't even mentioned him, but Buddy Hield
Oh my God.
is a guy who should get traded. So you got 3 guys who you could get at least a first round pick back for, all of them. Are you going to get first in all those deals? Probably not. That's rarely how the NBA works, but I think those are all guys with a lot of value to them overall, and I think there's a lot of potential here for the Pacers to do a good job. Like I'll say this, Buddy Hield, I think a team he could go to and maybe be like the Portland Trailblazers if they're really going to convince themselves they could still win with Dame. I could see Portland try to swing deals for Buddy Hield and Jeremy Grant around the draft. I think we kind of talked about it, Chris. I think Portland would probably trade their 7th overall pick in the Grant deal and then maybe like a future first and like a piece on their roster currently for Buddy Hield, something along those lines. I think the Pacers have a lot of ammo to play with here. Like you could set up the next core for this team in the future very well for yourself with the pieces you have. I always say this: if you have a chance to hit the perfect reset button, you should. I know it's not that simple. I know they have to care about profit margins and all that crap. But if you're talking about hitting a true and proper reset button on your organization to get yourself better in a few years' time when hopefully the East is weaker, because let's be real here, the East is going to be strong at least for the next 2-3 years. So you might as well take this time to build up the young assets that you need to compete down the line. I think this is the perfect opportunity here for the Pacers because in the next 2 to 4 years, you draft these upcoming guys, you start building this young core, and then you'll be able to extend Tyrese Halliburton when the time comes. So you'll have Tyrese Halliburton on his max deal and these young guys coming in who you have. Like that's a pretty good setup there. I think like Indiana, don't waste this opportunity for yourself.
Yeah, you're right. I do think Indiana they have options. They have a lot of good options, but the main thing there for them is that they have Tyrese Halliburton. So like you kind of have the main part in. So you're kind of good. Like you have options. Again, I forgot Buddy Hield. I do think Miles Turner, Hornets could definitely entertain that if they wanted to because I know their center position's cooked. I know the Raptors, their center position's kind of meh. And I know they've showed interest in Miles Turner. So again, another trade partner there possibly. And I think you're right, Jerk. I think the wild card here would be the Blaze, not the wild card. I think the Blazers are primed to make a move. They've been linked to a lot of 4s. We talked about it. Jeremy Grant's one of them. I read a report that there's possible interest in OG Anunoby. I don't think he'll come cheap. I think the Raptors view him highly.
Oh yeah,
it's going to be hard to negotiate. I mean, the Blazers are going through a total rehaul at the front office, and man, if your first, swing of things involves Masai Ujiri, it's not going to be easy to get equal value back. That man's a smart man.
You're not going to fleece him.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, it's going to be difficult. But they seem primed to make a move. But again, they have the 7th pick, so it's just like they have something to kind of initiate conversations with substance, right? So yeah, I do think Jeremy Grant is gone eventually. The Pistons are clearly in rebuild mode. I don't know how likely it is that OG Anunoby's gone. So let's see this. Let's cap it off with this. Because there's going to be a trade that's going to occur. whether it's major or whether it's minor, realistic prediction on a possible trade that's going to occur in the NBA within the next 2 weeks. I know it's going to be difficult because, you guys don't have the rosters in front of you, but like, do you see a player, someone that we haven't talked about? Let's keep it interesting.
May I go first?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. I think Damon needs some time anyway to think
Yeah, I
about
have
it.
no idea.
I don't have a team, but I have a player.
Sure.
The Suns are going to sign and trade Ayton somewhere.
Yeah.
Uh,
Damn it. That was such a cop-out answer, Jerk. There's smoke with that, too. You're right.
The situation there. We're talking about Baker Mayfield and that bridge. That Robert Sarver already lit the bridge on fire last offseason, and we're just seeing it collapse now. And there's absolutely no structural integrity at this point. There are no plans to have a new construction company come in and fix it. I think Ayton wants to get paid. I think there are plenty of teams out there willing to pay him, and I think Robert Sarver has made it clear in the past that if he doesn't want to pay a guy, he's not going to budge. He's not going to pay the guy. Think of all the pieces he traded in the past with the Phoenix Suns when they had Steve Nash and Amari. He didn't want to pony up for, who was it? Joe Johnson. He traded away draft picks that became Andre Iguodala and Rajon Rondo and Luol Deng because he didn't want to pay those guys the higher slated first round money or when they would eventually become free agents. He traded these guys to save money. He's a joke of an owner. He's an absolute and utter joke of an owner. And it's going to happen again. And Chris Paul and Devin Booker are going to have to get used to a new guy that they're going to have to throw lobs to and try to work with. It sucks because the Suns had the great regular season. That collapse was still like sad, but this is why we always talk about championship windows on the show. And this is a pro push in your championship window show. And it looks like the Suns' championship window is about to come to an end immediately. And I'm not saying DeAndre Ayton's a franchise player in terms of like 25 and 15 or anything like that, but you cannot convince me that the Phoenix Suns are going to take a lesser return for what DeAndre Ayton can do for them, and they're going to be definitively better. They're not. I don't think they're going to be a 60-win team this season when they get rid of him. I still love CP3, but he's in the very final years of his career. Devin Booker, I think the rose is coming off that flower. I think we're really starting to see yeah, Devin Booker's a nice scorer. He's a nice player, but man, he's kind of been overrated the last couple seasons. I think things are unraveling for Phoenix, and it just really makes you wonder. It's like, dang, you had a 2-year window and you blew it. So
Sucks to see.
that's the analysis. And like again, I don't necessarily have a team off.
I do.
Off the head. Oh, who?
You know who I think? I do think Ayton's gone. You know who I think he's going to go to?
Mm-hmm.
You want to take a guess? Just one guess.
Can I get it?
The
One hit,
Hornets.
East or West?
East.
East.
Hornets.
No. You gonna trade Kelly Oubre, bro? Get the hell out of here.
No. Would it be?
We talked about them.
This episode?
Did we talk about them? No, we did. I mean, I don't know. Just guess.
Detroit?
Yes. Pistons.
Wow. You know what? Him and Cade Cunningham?
I think he goes to Detroit. Detroit has the cap space. They've been interested in a lot of centers.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I think you do kind of have to give up the 5th pick for him, right?
For Ayton? I mean,
well, Jeremy Grant. You could trade Jeremy Grant.
I was gonna say Jeremy Grant, Marvin Bagley. Like Detroit has plenty of young pieces.
That is true, but like I don't know. Like
you can get Killian Hayes to be the CP3 understudy.
Exactly. I do think they have pieces to make it enticing, but like, does Phoenix want that 5th pick? I think Jeremy Grant for sure is in the deal. I think Killian Hayes, because just to get rid of him, because that's a bust. You could trade Marvin Bagley. I don't know if they'll want Marvin Bagley, to be honest. You get Dario Saric back for them, so Bagley. But I think Bagley's been really good in Detroit. Like he's kind of been a revelation for them, and he's it's a good place for him too.
Well, no, wouldn't it be better if they wanted Bagley because they kind of have the 4 spots settled in with like Cam Johnson there? Like, would it not be Marvin Bagley be like a small ball 5, and they could hope Chris Paul and Booker can make him the guy
to replace the scoring that Ayton provides? You'd have to get Jeremy Grant back, in their opinion.
Fair enough.
I do see Detroit going for him. I do think they'll like bring out the big guns for him.
I think a future. Wouldn't you maybe more so want to trade a future first?
Exactly that too. Like, because if you're Detroit, like I do not want to give up that 5th pick. We're still rebuilding, and I like Ayton, but like,
let me just say this, like, just blanket statement. If you're the Pistons, and you need to try to predict what could happen going up to number 5, you got to go through a bunch of different simulations, as weird as it sounds, and see who's still available at the 5th pick of all circumstances. of the top players. If you don't like the name that's still there at 5th overall, I'm kind of considering it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the thing, though. If I'm giving up the 5th overall pick, that's significantly less than, like, you have to give up significantly less on your roster.
Yes.
More than what you... So it'd be like, if you have to give up the 5th pick, to me, it's 5th pick, Jeremy Grant, Killian Hayes, and I stop.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if I'm giving you the 5th pick, you're not getting much else.
Because that's enough. Yeah.
And like you said, maybe you could get a role player back from Phoenix. So it's like, you kind of have to weigh that if you're Detroit. Like, do you think anyone who you could get at this 5th overall pick will be better and contribute to your team right now more than DeAndre Ayton can in over the next 2 to 3 seasons? That's what you have to weigh there. And on that logic, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I consider it.
I mean, look, I'll say this. If Detroit could get Ayton and they keep the 5th pick, Motor City's up right now, baby. Because they have two right now. They have two cornerstone pieces in Cade Cunningham and Sadiq Bey. We love us some Sadiq Bey in this chat. He's phenomenal. He's their future 3. So if you get Ayton at your 5, I could see them drafting Shaedon Sharpe at 2, and then they're kind of set. Overall, like, you have your young nucleus there, but I do think Detroit gets him. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. Dame, were you going to say something?
No.
Okay. Well, do you have, like, a prediction on, like, who's going to get traded?
Bro, I have no idea. But I saw that the Timberwolves were looking to move
yes.
D'Angelo Russell.
Yes, deal.
Yeah, I was just trying to find a team, and I just don't think that any contender is really going to take him.
Yeah,
Because
so
he's just a liability on defense, and these contenders don't need that.
me and Dame used to be, fun fact, some pretty big D'Lo fans. We wanted him coming out the draft in 2015. So I like D'Angelo Russell. I do think there was an opportunity for the Knicks to get him in 2019 when he was the Golden State Warriors, and I think there was some smoke with that. But you're right. I do think, well, they need to move off from him, man. He was awful in the playoffs, man. And I know he's Cat's boy, but you're right. I can't find any trade partners for him, bro. It's just like let's see teams.
I went through Miami's not going to take him because he doesn't play defense.
Yes.
Boston's not going to take him, doesn't play defense. Milwaukee's not going to take him, maybe off the bench, but I just don't see it.
He does make a shit ton of money too.
And then they already have a lot of money on the books.
Could you see him possibly going to the Pelicans?
Pelicans I can see because they're just trying to acquire as much talent as they can to try to build something there around Zion. But then again, they just acquired CJ McCollum.
But they're right.
They're very similar players, undersized guards, not really point guards, but undersized twos that don't really play defense but can score the ball.
Who's their point guard? Zavonte Graham, but he's kind of not panned out for. Oh, you know who I could see D'Angelo Russell going to?
You're gonna have D'Angelo Russell and CJ McCollum. Like, that's a bad backcourt.
You know who I could see D'Angelo Russell going to? Because I saw a report say that they were in the market for a point guard.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be. I don't know. I don't like the fit. I don't care about the fit, to be honest. But I do think they have pieces to kind of trade for him. The Wizards.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I could see them trading like a Kuzma or something because they're stacked at the 4 position. Like, you have Porzingis, you have Kuzma, and you have Rui. So you could trade one of them, and I think the Wolves at this point. If you get one of those 3, I doubt they'll get Porzingis. But like, I think Kuzma would be the guy to go. Why not?
Yeah,
be a pretty infuriating team with him and Anthony Edwards.
You actually made a contribution to this podcast. Congrats.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. In terms, all right, so Dame, I guess, went with D'Angelo Russell, and I kind of helped him out there. My trade prediction here. Oh, by the way, Jerg, the Spurs had an individual workout, or I've scheduled one with AJ Griffin.
Oh my God! The Spurs pick needs to be AJ Griffin or Jalen Duren. If they pick another guard, I swear to God,
then it has to be. I think they're gonna go Griffin, and that's a good pick for them.
It has to be. It has to be a front court player.
Okay, I'm gonna go. I want to shake things up a bit here. I do want to shake things up a bit.
Here we go. I want to shock the system.
I think I'm not gonna go Donovan Mitchell.
Too obvious.
I had one in mind, but it's so far fetched. I'll tell you this after. That's
for the podcast.
I saw some rumors. Well, there was that rumor with Gobert going to Atlanta.
Yeah.
It was Herter, Collins, Capella, and a first rounder, right?
16th pick, I think. 16th.
That is a pretty hefty package.
Yeah,
I don't know
who these people think Gobert is.
Gobert, and I'll say this: I do think Trae Young could get the most out of Gobert because I think Trae Young's a world's better passer than Donovan Mitchell. But
one of my boys told me that Rudy Gobert is a Hall of Famer, and I
who's the
almost lost
boy?
him. Gallo.
I mean, with
I'm
the
not
standards
lost
of the
him.
Hall of Fame, Dame, he's a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. They
You
might
know
vote
he's
him
gonna
in.
make it, bro. Eventually.
I just it doesn't make sense to me
If
how
he-
a guy that's just not good, not even that he's just not good enough, he's just not good, can make the
Okay.
Hall of Fame.
Okay. How about this?
If he wins a gold medal for France at any point, he's making it.
Oh,
Let's
Okay.
be real.
Go make the French Hall of Fame.
Guys, please. Let's focus. Okay. I think Gobert, there's a possibility he gets moved. I did see but the Bulls maybe being interested in Gobert. I know
Yeah.
the Bulls are trying to package Kobe White and the 18th pick for something. I don't know if I was going to snag you Gobert, but I do think Kobe White and a 18th pick could definitely snag you a decent role player. So maybe the Bulls are brewing something. They got hit with an injury bug last year, especially towards the end. I'm gonna go hot take here, and it's not gonna happen. But screw it.
Some stupid shit.
I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander gets traded.
That's not that stupid.
Why? Why? Do you think it's a possibility, Dame?
Yes.
Because for some reason, for some stupid ass reason, the Thunder here, like there was reports that they think he doesn't fit their timeline. I'm sorry, how old is your timeline here, bro? Shai's like 22, 23, and it's just like we talk about this all the time. It's just the Thunder are like gearing. I think they're gonna
Like
Victor.
2035.
What's his name? God damn it, Jerk Victor. The huge.
Wembanyama?
Yes. That's their primary target, in my opinion. And I hate, like, they are treating Shai with such disrespect. Like, yeah, they gave him the max contract. Kind of had to at that point, but it's just like, hey, man, we're going to shut you down for the second half of the season. We're just going to tank here. And you're just wasting this dude's years, man. Like, Shai is a great player. I think he gets traded. And I know Shai doesn't probably want to be there because we know where Shai wants to be. Well, with his buddy in New York.
Oh my God!
I'll say this though, I'd give up the sink for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I'll give it up for him.
The sink.
I'm giving the sink, some utensils, whatever he wants, napkins, anything. For Shai, hell yeah. Oh my God, I would love Shai in the Knicks.
I'm
But I
not
do.
disagreeing, but why the sink?
But isn't that the kitchen sink? Isn't that the phrase?
I thought it was you give up the farm.
Well,
Kitchen
that.
sink, too. That's
Oh
the
yeah.
same.
Oh, so we're both right. But I could see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander getting moved. I can see him getting moved. Man, that package.
Can I throw one name out there that
Sure.
I've heard? I don't think there's any merit to it,
Sure.
but I have heard one unexpected name that could get moved. I will give you boys one hint. He underperformed in the playoffs this year.
Fuck. East or West? Sorry.
West.
Who's in the playoffs this year?
I'll just say, I heard that maybe, just maybe, there could be a very small chance that the Minnesota Timberwolves, along with D'Lo, might actually be willing to hear initial rumors for Karl Anthony Towns.
Oh man.
Because here's the thing. To me, Anthony Edwards has proven he's the guy.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. I don't think I think it's proven he can't be your number one. I don't think he could be your alpha. He was terrible in the playoffs. Let's be real here. He was just awful in the playoffs this year. And I think if you're Minnesota, I know you just made the playoffs, but I don't think this Minnesota team, like, they're not better than the Warriors. They're not better than the fully healthy Nuggets. Phoenix, I guess, is going to fall off. Okay. Memphis is going to be a year better next year. Now, Memphis to me is not better than Golden State, but I still think they're better than Minnesota. Like, Pat Beverly had the audacity to say that,
Pat Bev.
yeah, but still, like, you blew the 20-point lead several times to Minnesota in the playoffs. Like, come on, bro. So I think it could be a real possibility here that Cat could be initial discussions on that could happen. I personally believe that could be a theory worth looking into because they have to give him a supermax here soon. I think he's eligible for it after next season. And does Minnesota want to pay the supermax for a guy that is not going to be their number one option anymore? I don't know.
I think it's inevitable that Cat's gone. I don't know if it's going to be so soon because
I don't think it'd be that soon
because they made the playoffs. But I do agree with you, Jerk. I think Anthony Edwards is the guy. So I think he's gone. I think D'Lo's the first piece, though. I think it depends what they get back from him as to like that will show us where they go.
They'll try to make whatever they get with D'Lo, and they'll try to make that work with Towns and Edwards. And I just don't think it will. And then they'll look at moving Towns. because I don't think they ever look at moving Edwards for a while.
Yeah. And why would you? I'm not paying Towns a supermax. Absolutely. He made the All NBA team, right? Like, was it third?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Third
I
or
think
second?
that's what made him supermax eligible.
Yeah.
I think a third because Embiid was second.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm not paying him supermax, but he's not my problem though. And I hope the Knicks don't trade for Karl Anthony Towns. I really don't want that. Yeah, I think that'll do it for this week. Oh man, this turned out to be a longer episode, but I don't mind it. Jerg, where can they find us on the socials?
Yeah, what an end to this episode. And this is really the first time in a while we got to put our potential GM caps on, and we're definitely going to be looking forward to doing that a lot this summer, as even though we're not going to be able to do a mock draft for the NBA this time around, we're definitely going to analyze the draft after it happens, and we'll play some fun, have some fun with free agency. But in order to keep in tune with the podcast, make sure you tune in on a weekly basis here to the Somewhat Sports Podcast on YouTube and on Spotify, ladies and gentlemen. It's Somewhat, put a space, and then Sports, both on YouTube and Spotify. And to always check in on the daily polls, we will have Instagram posts upcoming for this offseason. You got to go to @somewhat.sports on Instagram. Always keep track with us. We are inching closer and closer to triple-digit followers, ladies and gentlemen. Let's keep going. When we get to 100 followers, that's going to be a big milestone. We might do a little special thing on the podcast, but who knows? Who knows? You gotta help get us to 100 to wait and see there. But for everyone that follows us so far, thank you so much. Always, hit that follow button on IG, like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, like the podcast, leave reviews, 5 stars on Spotify, and all that jazz. The best sports podcast out there, ladies and gentlemen, heading into the Somewhat Sports Summer of 2022.
Beautifully said, as always, Jurgen. For sure, we'll definitely do something special if we hit triple digits on Instagram. We're almost at 100. Yeah, we'll think of something. But yeah, Jurgen Dame, beautiful job as always. Thank you again. To all the listeners who made it this far, if you did, we appreciate you very much. And until next time, peace.